Welcome to the Everglades National Park in southern Florida. It's flat, it's hot, it's beautiful, and it's full of wildlife. In this video, we're going to take you through our one-day trip in the Everglades. The Everglades is a massive national park, taking up the whole southern tip of the Florida peninsula, and this park is broken up into 4 sections, each having its own visitor center. We have the Gulf Coast area, Shark Valley, the Ernest F. Coe and Park Road, and the Flamingo section of the park. We were staying in the Florida Keys, so we drove north to the Homestead area of the park and spent most of our time in the Ernest F. Coe area, and then drove down to the Flamingo area for our one day in the Everglades. You can also fit some time in at the Shark Valley area if you choose to come from the south and you have a full day. However, the Shark Valley area was flooded when we visited the park, so it was closed and we could only do those 2 sections of the park. We started our day in the Everglades in the Ernest F. Coe section of the park on the eastern side, and we drove down to the Royal Palm rest stop where there's a parking lot. There are restroom facilities in there and some picnic tables out if you want to have a nice little lunch in the nature. We also did the Anhinga Trail in this section of the park. The Anhinga Trail is named after the Anhinga bird, which is a water bird that lives in this park, and he stretches out his wings to the side and just kind of stands there warming up his wings in the sun and drying them off. This trail is less than a mile round trip. It's relatively flat, and there's a boardwalk and paved section, so you can take your stroller on this trail as well. If you want to see animals in the Everglades, this is the trail to do. We saw the Anhinga bird, we saw alligators, we saw snakes, we saw turtles, we saw some fish in the water, we saw birds, all within a less than a mile round trip walk. After the Anhinga Trail, we jumped back in the truck and drove about 1 hour southwest to the Flamingo section of the park. It's a beautiful drive. You can see the cypress trees and the marsh along the drive. It's very flat. Once we got to this section of the park, we visited the temporary visitor center because they're building a brand new, beautiful visitor center there. We talked to a ranger who told us that there were some crocodiles hanging out near the canal, and we were just heading to the canal to do some kayaking, so we figured we'd go stop and check out the crocodiles and then hop in our kayaks and go kayak in the canal with the crocodiles. Kayaking in the Everglades! And to this side of me we have some crocodiles. That? Kayaking with the crocodiles and alligators might seem like a scary concept, however, they'll leave you alone if you leave them alone. So we rented these kayaks for 2 hours, I believe, at the little rental section right at the canal, and you can either kayak up the canal into this bay and then come back, or you could go the opposite direction and just go south and kayak along the coast. We really wanted to see the manatees on this kayak adventure, so we asked the kayak rental place where the best place would be to see a manatee, and he said people have been reporting manatee sightings in both directions, and we ended up deciding to do the canal. So we went north up the canal. We were pleasantly surprised to see some manatees eating some of the grasses along the side of the canal, and then a manatee swam right under Nate's kayak and then popped his head up, said hello, and then continued on his way. And that was the highlight of the kayaking adventure for Nate, for sure. The manatee didn't want to say hi to me, but that's okay. We had our dog with us in the trailer back in the Florida Keys, so we couldn't be away from him too long. We wanted to watch the sunset, but we needed to get back to let the dog out and give him some food, so we didn't get to do that. But if you have the time, I recommend watching the sunset from this flamingo area because you're in the southwest corner of the Florida Peninsula, and I bet there are some pretty amazing sunsets from there. We decided to just turn back and head back home after our 2-hour kayak rental time. I was very pleasantly surprised by how many animals we saw in one day in the Everglades. This is a great park if you want to go see the wildlife. Before you take your own trip to the Everglades, you definitely need to check out the nps.gov site for the Everglades so you can see what the current conditions are like, because some sections of the park flood, some sections of the park need to be closed for different reasons, so make sure you check the current conditions in the park before you plan out your trip. If the Shark Valley Center is open, you definitely should check that out too, because there's a really cool watchtower. You can ride your bikes out to the watchtower or take a tram, and then from that watchtower you can get up at a higher elevation and have 360-degree views of the flat marshland. So we definitely recommend visiting the Everglades if you get the chance. I'm going to leave a link below this video to the National Park Service website so you can see what the current conditions are like in the park. I'm also going to leave a link to kayak rentals if you want to just look into that ahead of time. You don't need to make a reservation ahead of time. You can just book your kayak rentals when you're in the Flamingo area, but I'm going to leave that link there for you just in case. And I hope you guys have an amazing adventure in the Everglades National Park. I hope you are as lucky as we were to see all of that wildlife in one day. And if you've already visited this park and you have some tips or comments for people that haven't seen this park yet, then leave a comment below letting others know cool stuff they can do in this park. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.